Good morning, dear students. Today, let me welcome to the 8th class students to this session of English 2. And today's discussion is about there is and it is, and the distinguishment of their uses in our speaking, writing, and for the text. Therefore, let us understand this. And before understanding this, let's have a little concentration. And for that, please sit Siddha and with closed eyes have Brahmanath. Brahmanath. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Relax. Dear students, let me again welcome you to our discussion, there is and it is. So, we have been often coming across with the use of there is and it is. So, let us discuss and distinguish how they are in use. We know that we have been using there is, we can use there was, there were, there is, there are, there have been, there has been. Okay? So it is, it was, it has been. Understand? So there can be used with singular as well as plural. So this verb can be changed according to the real subject. I'll write something on the board so that you can better understand. But it is often used for singular subject, that also we will discuss. And before understanding this, let me write something so that you can better understand. Okay? Dear students, to discuss, to understand about the use of there is, there were, there was, there has been, everything. There with the verb, we have to use, you see from this structure you will understand. So what we have written here, use the use of there is, was, etc. That means the verb. We use there plus the verb, then the subject, then the complement to complete the sentence. Here we have seen there is a table, there is a table in the room. There is a table in the room. There are 10 desks in the room. There was a clock on the wall. There were pictures in the room. There has been some trouble in the city. There have been complaints from the students. And from these examples, we understood that here there seems to be the subject. Normally, we know that whenever we use a subject, we use at the beginning of the sentence. So, generally, when a student looks such type of sentences, normally assumes there as the subject of the sentence. But particularly, here there is not the subject. The real subject is over here, the table. But in accordance to this subject, its number, its gender, and its person, we have been using these verbs. The verbs change according to the subject. But here we found that the subject is coming after the verb. This is what the thing. So here we see, we use there to mean that something exists, something is present, or something is happening somewhere, some numbers, some quantities or whatever. So here, there is not exactly the real subject, whereas a table is the real subject. So, according to its number, we have to write the verb. Here you see a table, therefore we have used a singular verb and in present time. So this is singular subject, therefore we have used a singular verb. Here you see, next is 10 desks. 10 desks means it's a plural subject. So therefore we have used a plural verb. Similarly, a clock. For singular subject, we have used singular verb. There was a clock on the wall. Similarly, pictures is talking about plural subject. Therefore, we have used were. Understand? So, some trouble, which is trouble, some trouble. Here, trouble is an uncountable noun. Therefore, we have taken this as an uncountable noun, a quantity. Therefore, we have used has. There has been some trouble in the city. So, similarly, there have been, we have used have been complaints, which is a plural subject. Therefore, we have used a plural verb over here. But in totality, we understood there is not the real subject, whereas the real subject comes over here. And according to this subject, their number and person, we have used these verbs. We use singular verbs with singular subject and plural verbs with plural subject. Understand? You understood? So this structure is here, is there, plus a verb, plus subject, plus other words. Understand? There is a boy in the classroom. There are 100 students in the class. Understand? So, in accordance to this subject and its number, we have used this verb. There is not the real subject, but it talks about the presence or the existence of something or someone or some quantity or something is happening. Understand? Clear? So, let me tell you something more. Okay, let me write and tell. Here you see, we are understanding the there is and it is. Now our discussion is about only there is and use of there. So here you see, normally we use there plus verb plus subject. Understand? The same thing can also be used by using subjective verb plus other words, you can say the complement. Okay, so but what happens in accordance to these two structures, I have written two such examples over here. You see, there are two policemen at the gate. Okay, so two policemen are at the gate in accordance to the second structure, subjective verb and complement, you can say. So here, what happens? We can write in both of them, but since we use grammatically both are correct, but we use there with a be verb to mean that it is something is existing or present. Understand? So when we mean that something is existing or present, it is usual we must use there plus be verb. Understand? So that our sentence is more clear, more grammatically good, okay, and easier for everyone to understand. But when we write two policemen are at the gate, it is no doubt grammatically correct, but still it has some problems in understanding in accordance to this structure. So we should always follow there plus the be verb, because be verb is expressing the presence or the existence when used with there. Understand? So instead of using subjective verb plus complement, we should use there plus verb, be verb, then subject, then the complement. So you understood from these two examples? Okay, so similarly some other examples also let me to write so that you can better understand. Okay, see, I have also written some other examples for more clear understanding about the use of there. instead of using the second structure. So it is necessary to use there plus be verb, then subject and the complement, instead of using subject plus verb plus complement. Understand? So here you see which examples are easier and clearer to understand. The contradictions have been given over here. You see, there are mistakes in this translation. That means some mistakes exist in the translation. That means some mistakes are present in the translation. So similarly, there was an accident this morning. An accident happened. That means an accident happened this morning somewhere. There was an accident was exist in the morning today or yesterday, though since it was a past time. Okay, so but we cannot write like this. Mistakes are in the translation. So here we cannot identify whether the mistakes are existing over there. So to express exist, we should use there plus be verb. Similarly, an accident was in the morning is completely grammatically not incorrect, but it is incorrect syntaxically, so that it is not expressing the presence or the existence or what you say, the takes place. Okay, so something takes place, something is present or existence. So for that we must use be there with be verb. Okay. Let's understand the exercise now so that you will have more and clearer understanding about the use of there. Okay? Let me write on the board. Here is our exercise 18 related to the use of there is. This is which is a be verb that can change in accordance to the changes in time. Okay? So let's understand. So what we will do? Add the correct form of there is. Add the correct form of there is to the following statements. We will use the correct form in accordance to the statement. Okay, so we will take the subject and the time. Accordingly, we have to change the verb and its time, its form using there. So you see, dash two dogs. Here we have used two dogs. Means it is a plural subject in the garden. Means what time it is talking about? It is talking about the present time. So what do we do? There are two dogs in the garden. So similarly, dash a lot of visitors. A lot of visitors is a plural subject. Then this morning is already over. We have already passed this morning. So the morning has become a past time for us. Therefore, what do we have to use? There were a lot of visitors this morning. Similarly, there's a lot of people in the park yesterday. A lot of people is talking about the plural subject. So past time and plural subject. So similarly, we also make there were a lot of people in the park yesterday. Understand? There were a lot of people in the park yesterday. Try to understand. Very easy, very simple. Similarly, there's a party. A party is talking about a singular subject in our house tomorrow. Tomorrow is talking about the future time. So what do we write? There will be a party in our house tomorrow. Tomorrow is talking about the future time. Understand? So similarly, there's an accident outside our house last night. Last night is talking about the past time. An accident is talking about the singular subject. So past time and singular subject. There was an accident outside our house last night. So similarly, there's a new moon tonight. Tonight is talking about the future time. Therefore, we can write there will be a new moon tonight. Understand? There will be. Similarly, there's a lot of work to do this afternoon. So this afternoon is also a future time. We are now. It is now not the afternoon. Now it is the morning. So afternoon is a future time. So therefore it will be there will be a lot of work to do this afternoon. Understand? So you understood how we have used there is, there are, there were according to the past time and the subject. Let me write some other examples. Similarly, where we will use the correct form of there is. Okay? So let me write. Here you see, we are discussing the exercise 18 and it's part 1. Exercise 18, part 1. We have discussed some of the sentences. Now also we are discussing the remaining sentences to understand the use of the proper form of there is. Understand? So here you see, the first is, there's a train coming now. Here now is talking about the present time. Therefore again the train is a singular subject and present time. So we can use there is. So there's many accidents in this street. So this street since past accidents are continuous. So what will happen? Something is continuously in progress. That means something is happening. It's a time to time it happens. So what we will write? There has been many accidents in this street. Last week there was an accident, yesterday, day before there was an accident. So accidents happen regularly. Therefore there has been many accidents in this street. There's a 400 children in the school. So 400 children means it is talking about the plural subject. In the school means it is talking about the present time. So we can write there are 400 children in the school. Sorry, it is talking about the last year. Last year means it is past time. So what we will use? There were 400 children in the school last year. Understand? So therefore we have used there were. Because it is the plural subject and we used were because it is the past time. So similarly, there's no fruits in the street for many years. So what we will write like this? There has been no fruit on this tree for many years. So similarly, there's no mistakes in your last exercise. Last exercise is talking about the past time. Therefore, what we can do? There was or there were no mistakes is given. The antecedent is a plural subject. So we can use there were no mistakes in the last exercise. Similarly, there's only a footpath here last year. Last year is the past time and only a footpath is talking about the singular subject. Therefore, there was only a footpath here last year. So similarly, there's a good film on at the Regal. Regal is the theatre, is a film house. Okay, a talkies. So what you will do? It is talking about the present time and it is talking about the singular subject, a good film. Understand? So similarly, there's a plenty of chocolates. A plenty of chocolates is talking about the plural subject in the house. Means it is talking about the present situation, present time. Therefore, what we will do? We can use there are a plenty of chocolates in the house and you can have some. You understood? This is the part 1 of your exercise 18, in which we have used the correct form of there is in the spaces given. Understood? Let's understand the second part of the exercise 18. Okay, let me write. Here, let us discuss the part 2 of exercise 18. In this exercise, it is instructed to us what is that? The answer the following questions in complete sentences. Answer the following questions. Here are given some questions. We have to answer them. So what is the question? Where we have to use the correct form of there is. Understand? So what will happen, you see? So how many students are there in the class? How many students are there in the class? Many students means it is talking about plural subject. R is talking about the present time. Okay? So we can say there are 100 students in our class. There are 50 students in our class. There are 35 students in our class. Understand? In the present time. And plural subject, therefore we have used there are. So how many tables are there in this room? There are 20 tables in this room. Here you are talking about tables and it is talking about the present time. There are 20 tables in this class. Understand? You have to write there are 20 tables in the class. Okay? So similarly, number 3 you see, how many teachers are there in your school? So it is talking about present time and plural subject. We can say there are 100 teachers in our school. There are 100 teachers in our school. Understood? You are answering these questions given. So similarly, how much milk? Milk is an uncountable noun. So we are talking about its quantity. Therefore, it is used is a singular subject. How much milk? There is less milk. There is half liter milk in the jug. There is half liter milk in the jug. There is 1 liter milk in the jug also we can do. Understood? So similarly, next you see number 5. How many months are there in a year? How many months are there in a year? There are 12 months in a year. You know this. There are 12 months in a year. Similarly, number 6. How many days are there in a week? How many days are there in a week? So there are 7 days in a week. The answer is like such. There are 7 days in a week. So similarly, how many weeks are there in a month? There are normally 4 weeks in a month. There are 4 weeks in a month. Okay? Similarly, how much water is there in this tank? Here water is also talking about the uncountable noun. So when we are talking about the quantity of an uncountable noun, we must use the singular subject as used over here. So there is a lot of water in the tank. There is less water in the tank. There is 100 liters of water in the tank. We can write like such. You understood? So we have answered all these questions using the proper form of there is and there are and with complete sentence. So dear students, today we discussed the use of the proper form of there is in the exercise 18. You understood the use of there is and their proper forms of the verb in accordance to the subject given and the time given and the person and number is given. So today's class is about the use of the proper form of there is and why we use there in our discussion. There plus be verb is expressing about the presence or existence of something or someone or something is happening. So in the next class, we will discuss more things about the topic there is and it is. and for today only this much. Okay? Thank you.